So today we're going to pour a few jig heads. One of the advantages of pouring your own jig heads is you can pour different size hooks for the same jig head. Like I'm going to pour a 1/4 ounce today. I've got some 1/0 hooks, size 1 hooks, and size 2 hooks. And that way I can use a longer or a shorter lure depending on the length of the lure. Depends on which size hook I use. So here's our freestyle jig mold, and the second cavity there is 1/4 ounce. So we'll pour it, and I've already let my pot warm up to a little over 700 degrees, so it's pretty dang hot. So I'm not putting the little keepers on today because I want to tie a little string keeper on there. It getting to be winter time, we'll probably be using some smaller lures, and the smaller lures don't rip up as bad if you use the string type keeper instead of the actual keepers. So basically that's what you do. Just set the hook in the mold. You got your mold getting hot, got your lead getting hot, and you pour. So that's how it works. Now that we've got a few poured, we got to clean them up. So the first thing you do is take the little pliers called sprue cutters and cut the sprue off. And you can put that back in the lead pot and it'll go again. Some of them still hot. Just get that off there. Then you've got a little lead down here on the shaft where I didn't use the little keeper, so we'll cut it off. Okay. Then I take my knife, and where it's roughed up on the top there, I just smooth that down with my knife. And if there's any little pieces of lead where it shouldn't be, or rough areas, then I just smooth it down with that knife and get them ready to paint. That one's got a little lead around the eye of the hook. Well, we just smooth them down, and them mares are ready to paint. Okay, now we got a few ready to paint. Use this powder paint. It's like an epoxy paint, and it works by heat. So I heat the jig head up. And swish it in the powder paint. We've been having a lot of dirty water lately, so I'm putting a little chartreuse color on top of the silver looking jig head. And after we paint a few, we'll bake them in my little toaster oven. Supposedly that cures the epoxy paint and makes it a lot more durable as far as beating it off rocks and stuff. Then, after we bake it in the toaster oven, we'll put the eyes on them and they'll be ready to go. Okay, got my jig heads fresh out of the oven. still hot, that's a good time to apply the eyes. See, I've got stick-on eyes. And just take a knife point, catch under the side of them, lay them on that hot jig head, and it helps that glue stick on there. Do that and just hold it for a few seconds, and they stay on like that really good. Another jig head. Putting the eyeball on them. Some people say that the fish concentrate on that eyeball when they're feeding, so we'll give them something to look at, won't we? Well, we've got our jig heads finished, except for putting our little hook keeper on there. So we're going to clamp it in the vise. If I can figure out how to get it clamped. So then we take our line, just wrap it around that shank. And I do 2 or 3 passes because I want to build it up and for it to be rough enough to hold the plastic once we get it on there. This is called a whip finisher, and that's just a way to tie off what you've done there. Then you trim your threads off pretty close. Drop my bobbin thread. But you can see I've tied a little red thread on there. You just slide your plastic lure up on there, have a little drop of glue on there, and it holds it good. There we go. Back in business. Just wrapping that shank, wrap back down over it, you know, to lock it in place, and then go up and down a couple of times just to, you know, with a 16th or 32nd spacing in between it, so it has like a ridge. And then use the whip finish, 4 or 5 twists. I always overdo everything, usually end up doing 7 or 8, but it holds on there good. We don't have them come off. Of course, that little drop of glue is probably what holds it on there. So that's what you end up with.